We're here with Adam today. Thank you very much for joining me. Can you tell me a little bit about you and your role at Nurture?
Yeah, as you know, I'm Adam Draper. I'm the Managing Director of Nurture Brands. We are a plant-based food and beverage company based in London. And yeah, that's about it. We're very big on sustainability.
Yeah.
We're an SME, and we have about 33 employees now based in Hong Kong, London and New York. Sounds
Nice.
very glamorous, but...
It is.
Yeah.
Multiple locations.
Yeah.
And what have been the big challenges that you faced in regards to recruitment over the last few years?
The challenge we've had in recruitment is that as and when people resign, it's filling them before their notice period is finished, ultimately. So you have 12 weeks of pressure to try and fill someone in because we don't have capacity in the organisation to have people doing duplicate roles. So what you tend to find is when that person leaves, they take a bit of knowledge with them out of the company. So ultimately, it's the challenge is one of speed. And I think in lockdown with furlough and everything going on, people battened down the hatches and they stayed in their role. I think what we're seeing now is people have come out of COVID. There's lots of opportunities around. I think they're looking up and going, well, I've done 2 years in this company. Whether they did furlough, and we didn't furlough anyone in our company, which was great. But I think people who've had that experience, they're probably coming out the other side and looking for new things. So whilst I wouldn't want anyone in our company to leave, you've got to expect that you will have an element of turnover, maybe 10 to 20%. So this year, I just think we might have slightly higher turnover than usual, just because of this phenomenon of the Great Resignation, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, it's one about backfilling a role, getting someone in, having time with that individual to pass on the information. So it's really about speed, I would say, more than anything. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the most important thing that you look for then when you're partnering with a recruitment consultancy?
So, I mean, as you know, you're our only provider, so it's a monopoly. It's a monopoly for a signature at Nurture Brands. What drew me to Signature, as it were, was the fact that ultimately you're an owner operator. It's your business, and coming from a big company to SME, you realise how business ends up feeling like your baby, and you feel very attached to it. So to know you ran the business and also hired people gave me trust in you to do the right thing by us. Also, collaboration. So you're prepared to put quite a lot of risks for us, which was great as well, because it shows you were keen to work with us. But then it's also being the fact that you understand our business along the way, and it was always when we entered into this, it was all about the collaboration factor. It wasn't going to be transactional. For me, recruitment is time pressured as it is, and it becomes even worse when you start doing a beauty parade of different recruitment companies and different headhunters and types of people where you're getting to know them, trusting them, and they're running around. For me, it's much better to have one relationship where you can go, right, I have a problem, I don't have to explain the context. This is the culture that we have in the business. Can you help us? And that's kind of, I think that's how it's grown, and I think that's what Signature has given us as a company, is a continuity and a collaboration.
Yeah, great. And that's the way that we like to work as well. It's about longer term relationships because we understand your business, and we can act at pace when you kind of say that you need some support. So how would you describe the process management part of recruitment with Signature?
I mean, if you did it in steps, normally there's the oh no moment where said individual resigns, and then you try and get them to stay. In the instance they don't, usually we'd give you a bell, explain the context, and then you give me quite a clear parameter of how long it'll take you to suss out the market and then speak to X number of candidates. What's helpful for us is that you telephone interview everyone prior and hopefully sometimes you meet them beforehand, but broadly that takes out an element for us. That means we're just not looking at CVs and then trying to work out the candidate. I think that pre-screening, the fact that you know the business and the culture quite well. And as you know, we're looking for large company experience in terms of the processes, the mentality, understanding the sector and the brands, but we need this SME kind of mentality of sometimes you've got to do things that aren't in your job description, or you might just have to be a bit more agile and entrepreneurial than you would usually in a larger company. And that balance is really hard to find. And I think that's where the interviewing comes in, because if it's just someone that hasn't had the SME experience and isn't necessarily showing those skills, it's not really worth taking forward, even though they might on paper seem to be perfect for us. And then from there, we would then take them into interview. But again, you guys, you especially, call up and just check in on how that process has gone, what do we think about them, and if we've seen a few candidates, is there anything you're seeing that you're not liking or are liking, so to course correct. And then from there it's kind of up to us really, because ultimately you can't hire them, it's up to us to hire them, but we would, well, it depends really. We do case studies and we do interviews, and then we do a final stage interview, but from there it really is it's really up, you've done your part of the arrangement, but then it's checking in afterwards, right? It's how are they settling in the first 12 weeks, are there anything, and sometimes you have to connect with them to find out and get feedback whether they're enjoying it, which is very important for us. And that's it. And then sometimes, there have been instances where it hasn't worked out with some candidates, and they've, for whatever reason, they've not stayed on. And I've always been, well, to be honest, it's great that you were prepared to find us another candidate as part of the service that you offer us, which is great. And I think if you are transactional relationships with recruitment firms, if you find a candidate and it doesn't work out and there's no relationship, ultimately you've got to wear that problem, and then you've got to go to market again to find another candidate. Whereas the benefit of having a relationship with Signature is if it doesn't work out, you're essentially there to support us find the next candidate, and it doesn't become financially onerous on us ongoing. Which kind of shows we're both in it together to a degree.
Exactly, it's a long-term thing. It's like you say, it's not short-term, transactional. I just need a CV quickly. You have to invest a bit of time.
Yeah, well, that's. I don't think you've ever sent me 10 CVs and just read these and pick one. And it's always been much more selective, which is great, because we just, as you know, we don't have lots of time.
Yeah, indeed. And what are the big differences then that you found in working with us versus other agencies before we started working together?
So, prior to Nurture Brands, I've always worked in. Tyrrell's was a smaller company, but it's still quite big. It's over 100 million quid, and it had a HR department, and it was kind of controlled by the HR team, and we had lots of different functions, so there was different recruiters for everything. And I think ordinarily what would happen is it was quite transactional. The difference with Nurture Brands, because it truly is an SME, we turn over 10 million this year, is that we don't have a HR department. So the onus is on every leader within the company to hire their own people. So HR kind of lives throughout the whole business. So to compare what you're doing versus what I was doing in a previous life, it's really hard to do, because it was outsourced to the HR team, and they would then bring in the candidates, CVs would arrive, interviews would be done. But there was a gap between your type of business and the hiring manager. The difference here is it's very much a personal thing. If we have a gap, someone will come speak to me, and I don't try and control the process. I'll say to the hiring manager, speak to you, explain what you need, and work with Emily, because ultimately I shouldn't have to hire everyone in the company. We should have a culture and a mentality, and leaders should have the ability to pick people that are right for their team, and I should support them. And naturally I'll interview everyone as a final stage, but that's the big difference from my previous world and this, is there was quite a big gap.
Yeah, a bit more of a disconnect.
Well, yeah, there was a disconnect from who's on the market and what's available and feedback versus here I'm getting a lot of feedback. And that's the big difference. Well, I was going to say feedback, I suppose, and that closeness to the market is really important, especially at the moment, because it's so fast moving. There's so much going on, and if you are hiring, you need to understand the do's, the don'ts, when to move, when not to move, and you really get that when working in partnership with somebody. Yeah, and we also, as you know, we sometimes get it wrong in terms of we ask for the impossible brief. We need
which has happened.
Yeah, we do. We need this and this and this, and we want all this stuff, and it's like, well, that's probably not going to happen. But you do. Having said that, you have. Well, I don't know whether you entertain us with it sometimes, but I know you do try and look for it. But ultimately, it's good to get that feedback, because it helps us recalibrate expectations. But that goes into our overhead, but there's other stuff. It's not just hiring people. It's what are you seeing in terms of pay scales for certain candidates? How many candidates are on the market? What sort of inflation is there? There are other sides to it, and just sentiment from candidates as well. Why are people looking to move? What are they looking for? Things have changed. I think things have changed a lot from my day, where frankly it was very monetary driven. Maybe that says a lot about me. I don't know, but that's being candid here. But remuneration was almost the be all and end all that made people move jobs. A lot of the time it was salary, it was cars, it was X, Y, Z. And now people, especially younger people today, are looking for a company that they connect with a purpose, they're looking for work-life balance, they're looking for flexible benefits. And of course, you've got to pay people well, and you've got to pay people the market rate or above the market rate. But it's about the other benefits that come as part of that, and understanding what people are looking for helps us adapt, because we don't think we've got the formula right. We're always looking at ways to tailor our proposition for people.
Yeah.
But we'll keep on evolving it. But we're not going to get that unless we hear firstly what we're competing against, and also what it takes to get the best candidates in. Because ultimately, we have brands and we have people, and they're the two most important things in our company. 100%. So if we can't get the best people, we're not going to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And a sense of belonging is so important now, and values, and that is far more of a driver than just remuneration alone. Mm-hmm. So again, when working in partnership, when we understand your business properly, we're making sure that we're putting the right people in front of you and looking after their needs as well as yours. So how would you, if you could kind of sum up just in a couple of sentences how it's been to work with us and what we do, how would you sum it up?
So I'm glad I got thought about this, because this is like a non-pressure question that you invariably go, let me wait. But I actually wrote it down here. So I would say that the first thing was being conscientious. So ultimately, we don't want to be treated like a transaction. Yeah. We don't want to just be processed. Our overhead is our biggest cost. I mean, obviously stock is the biggest cost, but the second biggest cost, after you've done your cost of goods, is people. Getting it right is vital. And I would say having a conscientious nature, not just from you, from everyone in the company. Second thing is collaboration. Being in it together. So fantastic candidate, great. We're all happy about that. If candidates don't work out or whatnot, it's being on the journey to find out why did that not work out? What can we do? How can we solve it? And then obviously the speed to kind of resolve it. And the last thing, I guess, is trust. We work together since Nurture Brand started, we've been working together.
Yeah.
I think that's 3 years now. And I think there's this element of trust that comes with it. And for me, trust is essential. You want to know that the person you're working with has got your vested interests at heart, and it's not just about, it's not a win-lose relationship, it's a win-win, and sometimes it can be lose-lose. But mainly it's win-win.
Yeah.
But the trust is there, but also trust allows you to make quicker decisions, because you don't have to interrogate every single thing. There's an element of just believing what you're hearing and going with it, and then moving on to the next thing, rather than interrogating every decision or every CV, or whether every brief is right. So those are the three things. But I guess we've earned them over time, and that's what comes through a relationship, I guess, versus a transaction.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure.